Alright, everybody, welcome back. Nimiger here, and today we're going to be going over a Chimera run that I have. This is a live battle, but I know it's going to work because I am using the Rodolbot tool, which was released a few weeks ago. Actually, I think released a few months ago for testing, and then officially released like a week or two ago for the general public. Just as a note, it's not a free tool, so if you do want the auto kind of feature that you're seeing in here, you will need to subscribe to the Chimera bot. However, the team is fully playable manually, so this is totally reproducible. You do not need the tool. You do not need to be able to, run the tool within the system itself. Everything that you're seeing can be done fully manually. It's kind of the goal of a tool is allows you to put different logic behind the team and then run a Chimera, and then it'll go through and get all the mats, because as I've released on this channel before, running Chimera mats is a terrible, terrible, terrible task. Getting 25 mythical mats every single run, the worst part being that you have to do it twice. You can't just repeat your key, so you have to do it once, repeat, get the second one, and then you have to do it again. It's taken me 5+ hours of trying over and over and over again to be able to get it to work, so it's very frustrating to do. But to each their own who they choose to do it. I would highly recommend going for it if you can. The 25 mats each run, 50 a week, are very valuable, especially considering in the relic system the Stormcaller is just so incredibly good. From the Chimera mats, you do at least just need one copy, so highly recommend doing it at least until you get a copy, even if you're doing it manually. And there are some auto teams which you can actually quick battle and get a few of the mats each week. You don't need the full 25, but I like to go for the full 25. So what is this team? What are we watching? So this is a 80% 4 of the 5 champions being relatively free to play. We've got Mavara, who was the fusion a few months ago, very great at PvP, coming in as a PvE champion for here, mostly because of the increased resist and revive that she's able to give, makes her very, very nice for a lot of the trials this week. We've got Geomancer, who is an epic, obviously being an epic, very obtainable. The builds I'll show in a little bit, they are a little bit strong in terms of the needs, but that's what you kind of get when you're one keying Ultimate Nightmare and you're getting 25 of the materials. The ultimate form, as you complete more trials, does get just stronger and stronger and stronger, so very difficult in terms of the stat requirements, and I will show those in a moment. So what we're seeing here is the trials to be completed is going in right here. The main one is we need Veil and increase attack to be able to take down the ram form. We saw that in turns 5 through 10. We were able to get that done with Little Miss Annie. She is, again, not a free champion, but she can be replaced with Quintus. I do believe the Quintus needs probably a 6-star soul. You can do it maybe with a lower soul, but just absolutely cracked gear and a cat's gaze. And the Veil comes from Mavara, so the only thing that you need your DPS doing in this team is decrease attack, or decrease defense and increase attack, which Little Miss Annie has the decrease defense on her A1 and the increase attack on her A2. Quintus, I believe, has it on his A3. And two alternatives, you have the Calamitus, who is a mythical champion. He's got it on his passive and his A2. Difficult thing about using Calamitus, especially this week, is the ram form is negative affinity, and I just ran it over and over and over and over, and I could not get it to work, so wouldn't really recommend using the Calamitus this week, but on some of the other affinities, he'll probably be a good choice. And then, theoretically, you can use Michelangelo the Turtle. He's got the proper buffs and debuffs, but I don't think there's probably a world in which he's hitting the 1 key damage, which isn't really an issue because since you are running Ultimate Nightmare twice to get the 25 mats, you only need to do half key damage, because if you add both keys up and they're over the 1 key, you still get the chest at the end of the week. So Not too big of a deal. The ram form, again, the first ram form we come across is not too bad. Generally fairly quick to go through. The trial, if I can pull it up on my screen so I can go through them. The ram form trial that we did, the first one was the damage the Chimera within 3 of its turns while it's under decreased defense and perfect veil. So that's being covered by Little Miss Annie and the Malvara, or Little Miss Annie's veil itself. The second ram trial, which we got, was to place 12 unique debuffs, or 6 unique debuffs and 6 unique buffs on your champions within 3 of the Chimera turns. This team with the Brimstone, which I'll show on the Necmo, has, I believe, 9 or 10 debuffs when I counted, so no problem there. And then it's got enough buffs to go through there and get that done. The final trial for the Ram that we're going to is blocking the stun that the Ram can do with a block debuffs or intercept. And this one is really annoying RNG, at least in terms of the tool running it. With manual intervention, it's a little bit easier to get through because you can kind of time when your block debuffs is going up. So it's not going to be too bad to do it manually, but it is one of the harder trials to get done, or more infuriating, especially because you're doing it in RAM form 2. When we get there, you'll see it. And if you don't get it, a reset is like 30 minutes of time. So it is quite annoying. The Lion form, the first one we're doing, is damaging while it's under the Leech debuff. Fairly straightforward, getting it from Necmo Thar. The second one is 6 debuffs on the Chimera within 5 of its turns. One of them has to be decreased resistance. Again, the numbers for these might be a little wrong. The text that I see is quite small, and it's 2 in the morning. So I'm attempting to read it, but place 6, it could be X debuffs on the Chimera. Well, one of them must be decreased resistance. So pretty easy one for the Lion. And then the reason we bring Geo is for the third trial on the Lion form is reflect damage with Pain Link. Damage the Lion with reflect damage, Pain Link, or other reflect passives. I've never used Geo for this actually prior to this fight, but it's insane. He got it done within like Form 1 already, so his reflect damage is actually quite high. I do find that him being the target for the Lion seems to work out quite well, so that might be why it worked out really well, is because the reflect is targeting him. I don't know if it has to target him or if it can target somebody else on the team. And the way that you have the Lion target him is by having him with the most defense on the team. So that'll be the target for the Lion. In terms of the Viper trials, what we're doing on the right, the first one is going to be damaging the Chimera while it's under decreased attack, which comes from the Necmo, and increased speed, which comes from the Necmo, so fairly easy. Your second one is going to be damaging the Chimera with a single skill while you're under increased attack and block debuffs. This one is a little bit annoying. You do that. This is kind of where you need the build check. Everything else, you don't necessarily need the Little Miss Annie or other champion you slot in for the DPS 6-star soul per se. For the deal big hit, you really just want to go all out as much as you can. So my Little Miss Annie 6 stars on the Crushing Rend, I've got her in a Cat's Gaze with a Boss Slayer, so she is overkilling the trial, but I don't know how weak the build can theoretically go. I would assume you don't necessarily need the 6-star soul, but you will need a pretty cracked out build if you are going for that. That's going to be kind of the barrier this week for that one hit, is having all the stats plus the damage. And then the third Viper trial, again, is a little bit of RNG. It's a lot more easy manual play. Resisting 10 debuffs while the Chimera, it might be more than 10. Again, the numbers are small, but resist X debuffs while the Chimera is under decreased accuracy in the Viper form. This one, fairly straightforward going through. You do need to get the decreased accuracy out, but then you also need to have increased resistance. The increased resistance coming from Mavara is kind of like always on, so you are seeing that just continually in play. The decreased accuracy from the Loriaka, or the I think it comes from Loriaka and Geo, so one of them needs to hit it, so that way you can get as many debuffs. And again, that's going to happen in Viper Form 2. So those are the trials we're going for. We do get some of the other trials in the meantime. It's not necessarily important to go for them. Some people go for the basalts. I don't think the 3-star is really that worth it. You get a lot of legendary relic food, which is pretty much a 3-star basalt. The 4-star basalt is quite worth it. I didn't feel like building a team that can go for it, but if you can build a team or you have a team that can go for it, including the 25 materials, it is quite worth it. The 4-star basalt being a little bit more rare to go into. So as we get back to the Ultimate Form round 2, I'm going to swap over to the team to show you while it runs in the background. You can see it is indeed 2 a.m. in the bottom corner. So going over the team, these are the stats that we're running. If you're not familiar, this is the RSL extender tool. I've created a squad in the tool that saves my team. So if when this comes up again in a few weeks, I can just hit equip and all this gear will go back into place. So super nice tool if you aren't using it, but the stats are things that are important for this. Is Little Miss Annie obviously needs as much damage as she can get, around 250 speed. I found that you need the roughly 350, 400, 350 resist, 400 accuracy, and then with the increased accuracy and increased resist that you get, it's up enough for her to get all her stuff out. You could probably lower the accuracy a little bit. I'm not too sure about the resist. Like I mentioned, I've got her in a cat's gaze, and I've got these masteries on her. Nothing else too important with her. The 6-star Mercy and the 2 Zeal are kind of the big damage Chimera build, so that's what most of the damage dealers are going to be in. Then we've got Necmothar. He's at 350 speed. Resistant accuracy, quite important on him. You want to make sure he's landing everything all the time. Perch Shadow, insane relic. You'll see it used on a lot of the 25 mat hunting builds, just because in order to reduce RNG and increase consistency, you can run multiple of that relic and just takes a bunch of extra turns, and it allows you to get out debuffs that might get resisted. It allows you to kind of play around with affinity and use some negative affinity champions because they can just go again and increase consistency over time because of the extra turns that they take. You can see he's also in a Relentless set. Again, we just spam as many extra turns as we can possibly get. He does have a Brimstone. That's kind of one of the debuffs we're running to add to that counter. I don't think it's necessarily needed for here, but it does add quite a bit of damage towards the end of the fight. My first key of this week, he did like 15 million damage. So I would recommend it. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't have gotten the 1 key damage. So it does add a decent bit over the course of the fight. These are the masteries I'm running here. Loriaka, again, a fusion that a lot of people skipped, but she did get buffed, and you don't really see her too often, but she is a very interesting champion, especially for a boss like Chimera, where you need to take that extra time to take as many turns as you can, because there is no really turn cap you're going to hit. You can take as many turns as you possibly can within the 65 Chimera turns, and generally it's going to work out. You're really only going to hit a cap with Senna, so 320 speed. Important thing here, she's the lowest crit damage. That makes her the target of the ram form. If she is the target of the ram form, then she will get taken out by the ram form, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. Resistant accuracy, you can see the relics and the masteries here. Mavara, nothing super important for her other than Perch Shadow. You do want the Relentless and the Impulse, just increasing cooldown or decreasing cooldown, letting her go as many times as possible. She doesn't need any accuracy, so you can build some resist. I've got these masteries. And then Geo, important for him. He does need the most defense on the team so that he's the lion target. You can operate with him not being the lion target, I think, but I found that this worked way better for me than any of the other tries I did. Resistant accuracy, quite important on him. And then I have him in 9 Piece of Feral. The Feral just making my team do more damage. You do not need that in any capacity. He could be in a totally broken build. All the other builds for the champions are pretty important. I didn't mention Loriaka in 9 Pieces of Protection, which helps the ultimate form do a little less damage. So I would highly recommend you have that on her. And then Geo actually having the golden elixir, because when the lion's dealing damage and he's reflecting, you want to keep healing, especially since he's the lion target. He's going to take a lot of hits, go under 50% HP, and then this will heal him up and generally just help Mavara keep him alive a little bit easier. So those are the builds, those are the masteries. That's kind of the general logic that we have going in here. Now, going back to the fight, you can see We're 43 turns in now. We've completed all of the RAM trials. That third one that I mentioned is a little bit easier on the manual side, but there is still some RNG of just hope that we have the block debuffs up and that we are able to block everything at the time. The one thing I do find is when you are running like Loriaka and with some of the masteries for when, you know, buffs and debuffs expire, she gets a ton of turn meter, makes her go a billion times. She can consistently put it up, which is nice. But then you also have Relentless on Necmo and the Mavara. And you've got the Perch Shadows, which make them take so many turns that they can outrun the block debuffs quite easily. So if you're not timing it well, or you get unlucky with the Perch Shadow procs or the Relentless procs, then it is a little bit unfortunate because you can outrun the block debuffs, end up taking the stun, and then you don't get that trial done. And that's a big point of contention for the reset, is having to reset at Ram 2. And it's not as bad as like Lion 2 or Viper 2, which you're seeing, you know, on auto, this is 15 minutes into the fight. If we're on full manual mode, this could be 30, 40 minutes into the fight. So that reset is very, very bad to have to take. So you do want to plan that out. Again, if you are full manualing it, you might be able to reduce some of the Relentless or Perch Shadows within the team because you can time everything quite well. But in general, it's not terribly difficult because you do only need to block 7, and I believe the Ram will use that ability twice. I might be wrong on that. So you've got a few attempts to block it on your champions. That's why you do need the to make sure that you have it up going into it as well. So on the ultimate form going into Ram 2, you want to make sure you don't waste your block debuff so you can get it up right away. However, you do want it up going into the Ram 2. So you want block debuffs on everybody because he'll open up with an initial stun, from what I'm remembering. So you want it up. You don't want to waste it in like the middle of the ultimate form so you don't have it up going in, because he will open up with a stun. In terms of the Lion, we just saw that on screen, again, fairly easily. You saw the HP and defense numbers of my champs. The Little Miss Annie is a little bit low. The Geomancer is lower than the rest of them, but he's at 65k HP, 4500 defense, and he's got the Golden Elixir. He survives totally fine being the Lion target. There were no issues with that. The Strengthen, making him take less damage as well, is quite nice in terms of the buffs. Little Miss Annie, again, is continuing to pump out damage. We can see she's doing like 1 million per A3, so 2 million on a lot of those uses of the ability if the Chimera has the decreased defense and the decreased attack, and the weaken. In terms of the A2, that's going to be the self buff. You do want that on her as much as you can. Right here, we're seeing it do about, 800 to 1 million. So some of the big hits for the Viper form that we're talking about, what I did is, and I think we'll see it in a minute for the final trial, is I self-buffed with Miss Annie, make sure she had the increased attack, got decreased defense and weaken on the Chimera, and then the A3 being the biggest hit is what's going to be kind of the best chance at getting the trial done where you need the big hit. There is a few other weeks where you need to do a big hit on the Ram form, so if you're familiar with that trial, your goal is just to make sure the DPS can complete that, and then you don't even really need to worry about the rest of the numbers or things going on the rest of the fight. If they can clear that single trial, that's kind of your DPS check for the entire fight. So the DPS check for here is going to be, can you do X amount of million with the Viper form in one hit? Other weeks it is the Ram. So the A1 of Little Miss Annie, you do want to make sure you're getting that decreased defense out as much as possible. You can see here going in to the Viper form, we had the increased resist up. Very important, otherwise you can take a lot of poison damage early, and that can kind of screw you over right at the beginning because you just die. You can see Annie gets very close to death, but I do open up with an A1, and without the increased accuracy, we aren't able to land that decreased defense, which is quite important to getting the trial done. So she will go again, resist again, and we need the Loriaka to place the increase accuracy so that we're able to start landing our debuffs again as more stuff gets on it. So we don't have the increased accuracy there, I don't think we did. But we got lucky with the 400 accuracy that Little Miss Annie has. Now, once all of that's on her, we can use the play date. I don't think I saw the trial go off right there. Let me check if we've completed it. We have not, so in terms of that ability, we have not done it. We're getting the decreased defense out again. We'll get everything going. We'll use the A2 with the self buff. It's going to be about 700k. Again, we still aren't able to complete it. So I believe we'll have probably one more shot at the A3. We'll see if it goes off right here. Nope. Didn't use it. So I think I'm losing my mind. Maybe it's not all damage in one. I'm trying to read the trial, and I can't click it in game. Oh, we already completed that. I'm losing my mind. That was completed in the second round. The one we were just doing is the resisting debuffs with the increased resistance. So imagine I said all that, but like in Viper form 1 when we did that trial. The one we were just doing was resisting. That's why I was kind of seeing it go up, and I was a little confused. But I don't know that I can actually click the trials in game while the bot is running, so that's why I'm reading them on the small screen to the side. But that's kind of the end of the fight. We're already here. You can see it's 1 key damage with the 6-star Annie. We just crossed that a few turns ago. My last key was around 120 million, so it looks like it's relatively consistent. The team itself, I think, is quite cool. You theoretically can do it with all free-to-play champions outside of the Necmothar. I don't think has ever been free to any degree. However, a lot of people have been hunting him specifically for Chimera since the game mode was released. So hopefully you got something like the Necmo. You do need all of his buffs and debuffs for this fight, so I don't have a great replacement off the top of my head. But he's kind of the only one that people might have a little bit of harder time getting their hands on. Again, the Quintus can be in the spot of Little Miss Annie, theoretically Calamitus or Michelangelo as well. But in general, that was a decent fight. The RNG, again, can cause a lot of resets here. The way the Rodolbot works is it kind of reads the RNG and ensures that you're going to reset until you get the fight. I'm not sure how that works behind the scenes, but it does let us complete the fight right here. You can see we got the 1 key damage, 12 trials complete. You can go through and confirm you got the ones completed, or on the bot screen, which I'm looking at, it tells me that as well. I'm going to keep my result, and we will see that we do indeed get the 25 mythical mats with this team, and I've already done my first key, so that's 50 this week for the video, which is extremely nice to be able to have. 1 more week, and then I can pull, hopefully get a Stormcaller on my account. One more time, we'll look at the builds for the team. This is the Rodolbot right here. If you can see, it kind of goes through everything in the fight. If you are using Rodolbot and you're interested, I did post the rules that I used for this team in the video in the Discord, so you can go to the Discord for Rodolbot if you are a member and see the import, and then you can copy it from there. If you do want to use it manually, this is what you'll want to look at. Just copy these stats, copy the builds as best you can, and then go through and look at the trials as you're doing it. Again, it's going to take much longer than the 22 minutes we just saw, and it's going to take a lot of resets potentially, but that's kind of what you sign up for when you're hunting the mat. So good luck going for it. This team's pretty cool. Haven't seen the Great Hoof Loriaka used too much, so pretty nice to be able to go through and see some cool new teams. I will give a shout out as well to the creator of this team, or the guy who put the original kind of idea in my head, which was Yannick. I believe he's a content creator. I saw he uploaded a YouTube video for this, but he's the one who gave me like the Mavara Loriaka Quintus version. I've seen Necmo and Geomancer quite a ton. I'd never seen the Loriaka used. I have seen Mavara popping up quite a bit. And then the Quintus, reading his abilities, kind of saw that, you know, there's Little Miss Annie and a few others that can fill that spot as well. So hope that team helps. Hope those replacements help. If you're hunting mats, good luck. I've been Nimiger. If you liked the video, please leave a like. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching till the end. See you next time.